Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of GnWC Weekly. I'm the Duke, and I'm joined by my good buddy.
And I will call you Betty. And Betty, when you call me, you can call me Al.
That's maybe one of my favorite songs from the '80s. Seriously,
What do you
hands
mean?
down. That's maybe one of my.
No,
I love that song. I
no,
love that song.
no, Al, like Angry Larry, AL.
Uh, that's actually quite clever. Quite clever. And by the way, we're not broadcasting from NPR studios. Duke is having to broadcast from his phone tonight because my computer blue screened, but through the beautiful technology that is Discord, I can actually still do the show. So
So,
pretty fantastic.
so grab a hot cup of cocoa and join us by the fire as we talk about the week in wrestling. How was that?
This this really got my goat, Larry.
I am pretty cheesed about what happened on Sunday. Well, let's just get this started and let's talk about NXT TakeOver. So there was a lot of stuff that happened this week, but there was also a lot of wrestling as well. So let's kick it off by discussing the finer points or annoyances of TakeOver. What do you got for me, Duke?
Um, I feel like they did it again. I don't know that I came out of it totally as hyped as I would as some of the other shows because I went into it with not necessarily low expectations, but not necessarily, just thinking, okay, they're going to have to impress me here, and I feel like they did that. There were a lot of surprises, like really, really, really unexpected things. And I don't know if you want to go down the card real quick, just as fast as possible,
Yeah.
or how you want to do it.
Well, Eric Young defeated Ty Dillinger. Roderick Strong defeated Cien Almas. Authors of Pain won the tag team titles against DIY, Gargano, and Ciampa. Asuka,
Huge surprise.
yeah,
Huge surprise.
Asuka defended off Billie Kay, Peyton Royce, and Nikki Cross. And Bobby Roode won the NXT Championship from Shinsuke Nakamura. The big surprise within the show was the interruption, Duke. And let's hold off on that interruption for now.
Sure.
And let's talk about it during Monday Night Raw segment because it kind of all ties in.
Oh yeah, it all ties in.
But yeah,
It ties into the Rumble too, but we'll talk about it when we get to Raw.
right. Nice pun because Ty was in the Rumble, and we will also talk about that in a couple
Wank, wank.
seconds. Roderick Strong, Cien Almas, I thought had that type of match that I expected them to have. The surprise, like I wouldn't say it stole the card, but it was better than I anticipated.
But it was crunchy.
Yeah, and I think
It was
that
super crunchy.
Cien Almas is becoming that wrestler for me where it's like, oh, Cien Almas is on the show, and then I watched the match. I'm like, you know what, that really wasn't that bad. It was a pretty good match. I think he's becoming one of those guys for me, and just like I think the Revival were those guys for me back,
Yeah.
a couple
Yeah.
months ago. It's just it's like, ugh, it's like this is boring. These guys
It
aren't
just
that good, and then all of a
it
sudden
just
it's like,
takes some. Yeah. It just takes some character work. It's some time for people's character to develop and for them to be in the ring with the right people that make you, in both cases, hate them enough that you're like, all right, these guys are working me. This is good. They're doing their job. This is good.
yeah, and as far as the title changes go and stuff like that, I do hear the argument of like not their time, too soon, blah blah blah. But this is NXT; it's developmental. These guys don't linger for 3 years and then win a title. They're like out the door in like, you know, 12 to 24 months if they're moving on. If not, then they're getting wished well in their future endeavors and doing something else or being repackaged and kept off TV. So it's never surprising to me when somebody wins the titles like DIY and then immediately loses them. Or like Nakamura has already lost the NXT championship 2 times despite there being no 2-time champion like as of, 5 months ago? Now there's been 2 of them.
Yeah, something like that.
What's that?
I said, yeah, something like that.
Yes.
It was, there was just like the only 2-time champion in NXT history was Adrian Neville with the tag champions.
Oh,
And then
nice
all of a
trivia.
sudden- yeah.
All of a sudden the Revival
Yeah,
got
that's
him
because you
twice.
corrected me on that at some point.
Yeah, I led you into that trickery one day. Neville had him, and then the Revival had him twice, and then Samoa Joe got it twice, and Nakamura got it twice. So like now all of a sudden it's happening. I thought for a second we were going to get there with Asuka, but she did defend. Hey, listen, there's been some good stuff going on. I don't know if you caught the pre-show of NXT, but the stuff they did with Billie Kay and Peyton Royce really amped me for their match, where they came out as a duo, accepted awards as a duo, stole Asuka's award, and awarded it to themselves. I really thought we were going to get that scenario where both Billie Kay and Peyton Royce pinned somebody simultaneously.
I thought they were going to use Asuka's award against her. I thought they were going to hit her with one of those ring bells.
Oh, you know what? I never even occurred to me, but that's actually that actually would have seemed very obvious if it
that would
was
have been
mentioned to me at the
hilarious.
time.
I mean, it would have been like people would have hated it, but that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, isn't that fine line now between like fans just hating something and like trying to get them to remember that you're supposed to hate it. They're the bad guys. You want to see the good guys, kind of want to see the good guys win, you know?
Exactly.
That's how the story goes. But everything people hate, it's cancel the network, blah, blah, blah. But
speaking of that match, all the girls look great, but that was a showcase match for Nikki Cross. Hands down, period. That was 100% a showcase match for Nikki Cross. And you were worried about her not getting it or not getting over. She was freaking over.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Galaxy called, and they have their greatest wrestler ever back, and she definitely.
Yeah, it was good.
I rewatched.
It was good.
Did I tell you I rewatched that the Kana Nikki Storm match in Shimmer, and now I finally understand where the Galaxy thing came from, because they used to announce Kana as world famous Kana. And she cut a promo before that match. And
Holy
said,
crap! No, you didn't tell me that. That's amazing.
So she said, well, you can talk about Kana being world famous. Nikki Storm is Galaxy famous, and that's where it all came from. Unless she was saying she was Galaxy famous or whatever before that.
Yeah, but still, full circle.
It came crazy. Right from that. Yeah, I watched it again, and I'm like, man, I wonder if this is the match we're gonna see come that Saturday of Takeover. And it wasn't. It was better. Because Nikki Storm was still kind of... They didn't mesh well back there. It was a lot of Asuka putting her in holds, Nikki trying to escape, and kind of stuff like that. But, yeah, listen, overall good. Bobby Roode... Listen, Nakamura, they sold that injury angle. And
I know you hate injury angles.
I really do.
But guess what? Bobby Roode was actually a ruthless son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And... we haven't seen, we've seen, this guy who's going to make NXT better and put everybody in suits and get rid of all the jorts-wearing Floridians or whatever he's going to do. But we haven't seen just ruthless dirtbag. No, we saw that in this match.
We've seen match stopped, match slowed down, checking on the wrestler, and it seems like they've always gotten better. And whether it's the heel faking or whether it's the face persevering those odds and winning despite the injury, we've had yet to see the other participant in that just kind of go all out, attacking afterwards, and so quick afterwards. I really believe...
Yeah, just nasty.
Yeah, and I really believe that since Shinsuke... I really believe part of this was to say, this was Shinsuke passing the torch, and he's going to be on Monday Night Raw. He's going to be on SmackDown. I really think that was kind of set up to be well, no, his story's not done. And kind of be
yeah, I think that's more. I think that's more. What else is Shinsuke going to do if he can't chase the title?
Yeah. So, plus it opens up the whole new dynamic, and I kind of joked around with this last week, but it kind of seems realistic that Bobby Roode as champion, listen, if there's a cosmetic facelift to the arena, and you can kind of say well, Bobby Roode's the champion, so we had to do this now, and have the ring, the barrier around the ring entrance look better, maybe with those presidential banners and stuff like everything all dressed up and hammed up.
Sure.
I think it'd be awesome if they did that.
I still want to get down to an NXT show. And actually, because I've lost a good bit of weight and have recently lost some weight partially due to some unfortunate circumstances, but still, it's working.
Duke got his hand cut in chainsaw.
No,
so,
not like that. No, please don't say that.
I
No.
heard it both ways.
No, but I want to go get like a new fitted suit, like a good, clean cut fitted suit, and go to an NXT show and sit, with like a Bobby Roode sign or something like that. be the change that Bobby Roode is talking about in the crowd.
To be like,
It'd be pretty funny.
that it would be pretty funny. Yeah, and the rest of the card was pretty good, and then we'll talk about. Actually, we could talk about it now. Let's jump to NXT real quick. We'll just tightly break this all up, or just tightly wrap this all up. We had
super quick. Let me call back to the ruthless stuff. The dirtbag type comments or whatever. Speaking of ruthless and just overly aggressive, the DIY Authors of Pain finish was fantastic in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
no better way to end it than that. It's just, you don't need 800 million kickouts of 800 million finishers or whatever. Just the more dominant, aggressive, stronger team got the job done doing what they do.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that they muscled out of the submission. That was amazing.
Yeah.
And then I like that they had the callback. Like before that, they had the callback to the Revival match. Sort of like, hey, this is why you love us for DIY.
Yeah.
And then Authors of Pain basically turning that into this is why you should be afraid of us.
Yeah, absolutely. It was pretty good. Pretty strong booking there and everything. Let's move on to NXT, and again, I feel like I'm not in love with the show after TakeOver for a few different takeovers now, mostly because it's not really a recap show, but it's not really a continuation of the story they told on the event. It's just like, here's our pre-show, but we're going to make it seem like, it's another day, another time or whatever. But here's our pre-show, and then we'll mix in little highlights here and there of the show. Ring of Honor is really bad with this as well. I've just watched your biggest event since your last big, your most biggest event, like one of the most biggest. How do I say this? I just watched a very important event for your company, something that demanded my time, a special event. I want to see fallout from that event ASAP.
Yeah. I want to see progression now, not 2-3 weeks from now.
I don't want to watch, Jack try to get off the island, and then all of a sudden something happens, and then it's 3 weeks before ABC shows another episode of Lost. I want to see the continuation of it. I don't want to see a rerun. I don't want to see the B stories. It's actually like the C and the D stories on these events. And it's no discredit to the wrestlers, because, it's still an entertaining show, an entertaining product. But
yeah, I was going to say real quick, on the flip side of that, all of those matches were actually really good.
No,
really,
listen.
Really good.
Again, nothing against those matches, but what's Peyton Royce and Billie Kay think about Asuka winning? It's like a kind of like the 70s, 80s maybe TV sitcoms, the soap at the end of it. It's like, what does Peyton Royce and Billie Kay think about Asuka winning? What does Bobby Roode have planned for NXT? Find out next week on the next edition of, NXT.
Yeah,
TV.
I get what you mean.
You know what I mean? Like something like that. But but it's pretty good. Ember Moon won, and they kind of set up a little bit with an interview of Asuka. I guess she was pretending she doesn't know who Ember Moon is. And it was pretty funny. So they're setting up that. We all figured that was coming. Even though we both picked Asuka to lose, we all knew Asuka Ember Moon was coming. We were just trying to, I guess, call the shot. Yeah.
But again, if Peyton and Billy had used Asuka's own award to knock her out, that would have been amazing.
Oh, absolutely. If they both would have won the title, that would have been even more amazing since I called it. We saw Tyler Bate, the United Kingdom champion Tyler Bate, in action over Oney Lorcan in a victory. I guess it keeps him relevant. It keeps his name out there. Again, I don't like NXT.
Really expected to see him in the Rumble.
So did I. I just really don't. I just don't like them taking NXT and then being like, oh yeah, no, we do cruiserweights with the Cruiserweight Classic. Hey, we do United Kingdom stuff with the NXT should be NXT. Like the mixing in of it, and I know it wasn't like an isolated match where it was like just a UK versus UK match, but it was just Tyler Bate versus Orny Lorcan, but that's about it. But
I get what you're saying, but
yeah,
they got to cross promote to an extent.
Yeah, but why does NXT have to be the one to cross promote? Like why can't
fair
it
enough?
Be
fair enough.
Raw? It's a bigger audience, right?
Why couldn't he have been in the Rumble?
Right. Why couldn't Raw do it? It's a bigger audience and it's 3 hours.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
They have the time. Right.
Yeah, so there's that. No Way Jose and Elias Sampson. Listen, in the end, it was Corey Graves' last NXT, and I it was touching, the video package they did, because I didn't see a lot of that ever before, and I guess nobody did. The confessional stuff, the what was going on.
Even Graves had not seen a lot of that.
Yeah, it was just like Corey, when watching NXT week to week, the weekly show, it was just Graves was a wrestler, and then he wasn't around. And then he was on the TV, and I guess the whole pre-show of that one, the Takeover R Evolution, addressed that. But I didn't watch that pre-show. It was just all of a sudden Graves was announcing, and I was just like, whoa.
Sure.
It's like, okay. Like I never knew that. I knew he left because of concussions, but I never knew that story. So that's about it. NXT was NXT. Both the Takeover and the TV show, it's everything you expect NXT to be, except the players are just always changing because of the way they have to move in everything. So let's move on to the Rumble here, and
okay.
I won $5 by the way in the Royal Rumble.
Nice.
Yeah, I picked Randy Orton to win, and we all
bet
$1. Yeah, and here's the thing. We all bet $1. My nephew came over with his son and his.
I don't believe you.
There's
no way. Why would you pick Randy Orton?
Well, here's why. Because my nephew picked Finn Balor, and I have to go against him because he's like, wrestling hasn't been good since Austin, blah blah blah. So I have to naturally go against him. Somebody else, actually no, I'm sorry. He picked Samoa Joe. His son picked Finn Balor, and I'm like, well, there were 3 people on my list to win. It was them 2 and Bray Wyatt, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna pick Randy Orton. I also saw something on the internet that was like odds to win the Royal Rumble.
Oh, I got a rant on that. Obviously, quieter than I normally would. I'm pretty much just staying away from. I've unsubscribed from the subreddit mainly because they're a bunch of pissing and moaning.
Well, that's good. I mean,
whiners.
Listen, I like when you develop your own things.
Hang on, wait. But also, I can't believe how much has already been spoiled between now and Wrestle. Like, I know so much of what is supposed to happen at WrestleMania, allegedly now, that it's ruining my enjoyment of the product. And I just don't understand how that seems like a good news direction for people to just, you're spoiling 10 weeks of content. It's amazingly frustrating. It's amazingly
absolutely.
frustrating.
I mean, I don't mind seeing news. I don't mind seeing speculation. I don't mind seeing rumors. I'm not going to avoid those. But when it comes to like a physical taping of a TV show, spoiling the next few weeks of the product, like I am avoiding that like the plague. You know that. I've addressed that before.
Yeah.
I hate spoilers of results. If it's something like what I saw, the thing I saw wasn't like Randy Orton expected to win the Royal Rumble. It was like, just like Vegas, quote unquote
The
Vegas
betting odds. Yeah.
And I'm looking at it.
Yeah,
and I'm
but
like,
that was based on backstage information that Meltzer had already been spreading around the internet.
Well, here's what I don't understand. Wrestling's quote unquote fake, predetermined, but there's actual Vegas lines. Like, how is someone not cleaning up and making millions of dollars off of it?
I know. Like, how
is it legitimized?
I know. It's crazy. I've thought about that, too, because it's just like you could literally take the guy that's like 100 to 1 odds and put him over and just make bank.
Not even like talking about them like just fixing the outcome, but how many people knew Randy Orton was going to win? How is Randy Orton not informing his like second cousin to go flying him to Vegas? Be like, hey, bro, here's a ticket.
Yeah.
Go bet in person. Go hang out at the Venetian box office sportsbook, and then just just go ahead and collect the winnings and give me 10%.
Yeah.
It's just like
exactly.
First of all, I'm going to give you the money to bet. You don't even have to put your thing in. So if things change, I just don't understand how it's legitimized. And the same thing with Super Bowl prop bets on like, will Lady Gaga show cleavage? Well, like everyone in Lady Gaga's camp knows what she's going to do and what she's going to wear and how many other people do as well. Like, how is that even a prop bet where Vegas would even want people betting on it with somebody knowing the answer before it even happens? I have to look.
It's ridiculous. I guess you just make the money off of all the uninformed, which is a lot of people, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. So here's the thing. I won $5. We all pitched in $1, and because it was only $1, I said Randy Orton. That was basically it, because I saw a list beforehand, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to throw Randy Orton into a possible winning scenario as well. I had, believe it or not, I had Roman Reigns winning at one point. And then I'm like, no, there's no way he's gonna lose to Owens, blah blah blah. But that's it. That's what I did. How about like a big shout out to you, because you called this, I would want to say like 7 months ago, maybe it was 5 months ago or whatever.
I called it last year.
Last year, right after the Royal Rumble. Yeah, you're right. It was a year.
Yeah.
Ty Dillinger at number 10, coming out in the Royal Rumble, and back then I said you were crazy.
I think just fans have been clamoring for it, and he's just stayed over and stayed over and stayed over and gotten more over, and people have started hijacking shows with 10 chants and all that stuff. So
I think he earned it.
They knew they had to do something.
And then, just the crap, like what we do every Royal Rumble, and I'm sure it's like this around the world. We sit down. I have a pre-printed out list of people who are guaranteed to, quote unquote, announced for the Rumble. And then I make columns for like probable, not probable, also on the roster, probably not going to happen kind of columns, so we can just pick and choose. Countdown comes up.
Everyone does that.
Yeah. No. Oh, you guys don't do that? You wouldn't do that? Listen, I'm sure a lot of people do, especially if you're like.
I do it in my head. I mean, I don't
big into fantasy football and stuff like that, and you're making this event. Like I used to do. People used to watch Elimination Chamber, so we used to all like grab a name out of the hat. Like if degenerates will find any way to bet on anything, and this is kind of one of those situations. So we had a list, and we would yell out the names, and then number 10 came up, and I'm like, Ty Dillinger. And everyone's looking at me like, who? I'm like, don't worry about it.
Who?
Don't worry about it. And all of a sudden the countdown comes down, and everyone in the crowd's chanting 10. And then all of a sudden, like, he comes out, and they're like, how did you know this? My God, you know everything about wrestling.
And one of the top 5 pops of the night too. I mean, it was just, it was the one thing that WWE delivered to the fans that was just exclusively based on fan demand.
Yeah, you can't say, oh, WWE never listens to the fans. Well, why was Ty Dillinger in the Royal Rumble? Hard work, dedication, but but that hard work and dedication means nothing unless the crowd's behind him as well. And I'm waiting to see where he goes from here. Me too. It's kind of interesting to see. I think he's. I really enjoyed, and we didn't mention this about the NXT TV show. I really enjoyed his humble interviews. After the Rumble, immediately after, and then reflecting it. It was so good. Like I have so much respect for a guy who I really didn't care for a year ago, because he's won me over in the ring, and that was pretty good. Royal Rumble itself, though. Don't want to harp on this too much, but I think the whole lack of a real surprise, and nothing against Ty Dillinger, but you didn't have that real surprise moment. You didn't have that WWE legend coming out the curtain. You didn't have the whole like joke comedy thing. You did with James Ellsworth, but he's already on the roster. And he does that pretty much. Well, there were basically 3 comedy spots, but yeah, nothing that was
like you said, that was sort of outside the box of what
Right.
you would expect.
Right. And here's your chance. Number 30, everyone who's listed. Now, here's the thing I don't get. You left 8 people up for quote-unquote surprise. Now, shame on the WWE fan expecting Samoa Joe, expecting Finn Balor, expecting Kurt Angle. They never announced them. Like, why do you feel like you were entitled for them to come out? So arguing that they didn't come out and, canceled WWE Network or it was garbage, like, that's not fair to the WWE. They never said they were coming out. But what is a fair and valid argument, is you had 8 people up for debate on who's going to come in. Some of those names were Kalisto, Apollo Crews, James Ellsworth, of course. Like, why couldn't those guys just be announced? Why couldn't you make them mean something on the TV show, winning a qualifying match to get in? You know what I mean? Why did they have to be unlisted?
There's also logic problems with Reigns at 30. So can I?
Well, no. Let me just get to my point of Reigns at 30.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
So here you have 7 unannounced names already accounted for, and none of them are big. And now here's your last chance to really shock people. Number 30, unannounced name. Who could it be? And Roman Reigns' music hit. Now, here's the P.T. Barnum, Vince McMahon. No. I have to finish this thought. Here's what? No, please let me finish.
I'm gonna set you up. Okay. Let me set you up.
All right.
So let me tell the other side, and then I'm gonna set up where you're going, because you're right. So we didn't talk about the other matches on the card, and I thought they were all great. Well, at least all the main show matches were good. Everything else, like the pre-show stuff, was pretty disposable. Even though once again Larry called another thing, and that was Naomi pinning Alexa Bliss. And by the way, not for once, but sort of to SmackDown's credit, they made a very big deal about it then and this week on SmackDown. So that was cool. So that was an interesting development from the pre-show, about the only one. We called Nia Jax and Sasha. Now, 1 second. The point I was getting to, the matches were really good. Reigns and Owens was actually quite good, and of course, AJ and Cena put on just an amazing match. I don't know if we were actually going to go back and talk about those or not.
No, we were.
Okay, good. Well, I'll get to my point on the Royal Rumble. So after this brutal knockdown drag-out match, which I'll have another flip side of the story for the Reigns and Owens match, but after this brutal match, of which on Raw, Owens and Jericho were both still selling everything that had happened to them from the night before. After this brutal match, one of the big problems from the IWC fan with Reigns is how much he no-sells stuff. Like when he's in a match, he sells like a boss. I mean, he does a good job. He does a great job in ring, regardless of what people's jaded opinion wants to say. He really does, and industry veterans constantly talk about how good he does in the ring. But he comes out at number 30 completely no-selling the fact that he was in a brutal match and was destroyed by Braun Strowman. And oh, by the way, Braun Strowman's no longer in the Rumble, so it's not even like he's showing up to avenge himself. Like, there's all these... And there's plenty of setup for, there's plenty of follow-up that they can repair these holes, but it's just a massive, massive, massive hole in logic that Reigns is completely no-selling the brutal match that he had before, where once again, he took brass knuckles to the head, he took finishers, he took Braun Strowman just destroying him, all this stuff, and just 100% no sells it coming out at 30. But on the flip side, there's the us versus them, company versus fan psychology that was played pretty perfectly, which I believe is the point you were getting to.
Well, yes. I mean, back to my point is you have this anticipation of biggest Royal Rumble ever. Remember the Rumble. You have a list of participants, and the list has never been ever finalized. But like at 22 people complete, they made it a point where they weren't telling you anymore. So you had 8 unannounced people: Kalisto, Apollo Crews, Ty Dillinger, whoever are 7 of those 8. And here's number 30. No one else left. It has to be a surprise. We haven't had that big return surprise. The Triple H, the Booker T, the Kevin Nash, even Godfather-like surprises where, the crowd will pop and get a little bit of entertainment out of it. And Roman Reigns' music hit. What do you expect the place to do but boo everything out of the building? You want to talk about Royal Rumble being something where the fans hijacked the last few years? Well, there's the reason why the fans, he's not the ultimate reason why. There's other factors, whatever. We've talked about it before. But he's the common denominator in fans hijacking the show.
Absolutely.
It started when Daniel Bryan got eliminated and fans really wanted him to win, and just it became this trendy thing to just start booing stuff. That booing is always hard.
Actually, it started the year before, but Reigns was actually on the other side of it.
On the other side of it, yeah.
Yeah, where Reigns set the record for eliminations, and then they put Batista over.
Yeah, that's right. Batista was the Royal Rumble flag bearer for the booing. So now he comes out, and now the fans are just pissed. And now we're just kind of sitting there in the living room looking at each other like, are these guys serious? Like, this guy, they're going to make this guy win the Rumble? Like, hook, line, and sinker, WWE sent Roman Reigns out at number 30 unannounced to piss the fans off, so that when anyone else won, the fans were accepting of the match. And right alongside of that is Randy Orton, the winner of the Royal Rumble. Why were the fans not pissed? Randy Orton wins the Rumble 4, 3, 2, 5 years ago, and the fans are pissed because the Royal Rumble has become a match where only certain people can win. But through all the distraction, the smoke and mirrors, your Lesnars, your Undertakers, your Goldbergs, Roman Reigns coming out on 30, now it's acceptable for Randy Orton to win because no one put him on the radar. He's a SmackDown guy. He's not even the leader of the faction he's in. Sure, he's a 12-time world champion. Sure, he's a guy who's won the Royal Rumble before. Sure, he's a guy that people always think is going to win the Royal Rumble back when he was, in the height of his career, back when he was winning championships.
And also remember, Larry, if you were to build a superstar from the ground up, it would be Randy Orton.
Right, it would be vintage Orton, I would build. And now here he is winning. And really all we can talk about is thank God they didn't let Roman Reigns win. Well, imagine Roman Reigns wasn't in that match. Imagine they didn't throw a Lesnar, a Goldberg, an Undertaker at us. And, it was just kind of like your normal standard booking of Royal Rumble. Every active superstar and a few surprises mixed in. And Randy Orton wins it, and we're just like, oh my God, really? Again? Same old, same everything. But you throw that, you make the Roman Reigns the evil heel in terms of the villain of the storyline.
Sure.
Even when he's not supposed to, and everyone's just accepting of it. So it's it's pretty comical.
Anyone but you, Roman.
Yeah.
Anyone but you.
But then, a couple years ago, it's like, oh God, Randy Orton, blah 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 again. Oh, he's gonna win Money in the Bank. Ah. So it's pretty funny how that happened. And yeah, I mean, listen, the whole card was pretty good. I totally missed the Nia Jax Sasha Banks match, probably because it was so short, I guess. I paused at dinner, and because 5 o'clock, it started at 5 o'clock. So I paused at dinner as the women's SmackDown match were happening. After dinner, we unpaused it. We watched the match. I fast forward. I saw Cesaro entering the ring, and we watched that match. And then that was it. Somewhere along the line, Nia Jax and Sasha Banks fought, and I totally missed it. Other than that, everything was good. Charlotte Bayley was good, and Neville Rich Swann was good, and Cena, AJ Styles is just awesome. But we're talking about two people, and I don't think Cena does get enough credit for being a fantastic worker. 5 moves of doom, shoved down our face, blah blah blah. I just think when he's in there with a pure athlete, it really makes him shine as a pure athlete. You know what I mean? Disagree?
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, okay. No, I there was that pause where I'm like, oh man, are you disagreeing? Maybe you're sneezing. I don't know what you're doing, but yeah. So the card was good. I think it was. See, I think, and maybe this is because of the Royal Rumble match. I think that the Royal Rumble event was worthy as a major pay-per-view. But then like
I totally agree. Yeah.
yeah, then like SummerSlam and Survivor Series fall way short of that. Although this year's Survivor Series was pretty good, but SummerSlam is the worst culprit of that.
Yeah. SummerSlam was not the best and had probably one of the worst finishes to a pay-per-view, like maybe top 10 all time worst.
I mean, like several years over too for SummerSlam, and then WrestleMania is just an event that's just like, excuse me, it burns you out to watch. So like out of the major pay-per-views, Royal Rumble always delivers because of that match, I believe, and not just who wins, but just the format of the match. I think it's just really investing it, and it's 90 minutes of it, so it's half your pay-per-view, and you're so engaged in it, like who's coming out next, blah blah blah. I want to do a counterpoint one of your arguments first before we go on to Monday Night Raw, and I have to take a sip of water here for 1 second.
Okay, I can talk if you need me to.
No, I'm good. It was only a sip.
All right.
The thing you said about Roman Reigns coming in and Strowman not being there anymore or whatever, I do like that about the Royal Rumble, where they don't give you everything. They don't make everything predictable.
That's
this guy came out as
my
number.
main thing was just
right.
no selling.
Right, I understand.
Like that was part of the match.
Right,
it was no selling.
So
that bothered me.
Yeah, so this guy comes out at number 3. Well, his arch rival has to come out at number 4. It's guaranteed. Oh, this guy's still in the ring. Oh, this is his nemesis has to come out now because, this guy's still in the ring. I like the fact that it's not booked like that, where, like, not everybody gets their hands on everybody they're supposed to at the time. I believe that's part of the reason why the Rumble is special to me, is because it leaves you, like, anything really could happen except for the winner. The winner is only going to be a handful of people because they got to go on to fight for the title. I really thought that with 2 titles that we would get somebody in more of a mid-card role that could win, with all the big superstars eliminating all the big superstars, that somebody shocking and surprising could win. And I think Randy Orton as Bray Wyatt's like lackey, kind of, just to close this argument, I think that just kind of simulated a mid-carder one, when an actually 12-time world champion, Randy Orton, popping every live arena house show that they do, is not your mid-carder.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but it is sort of a simulation of it, because he's sort of moved down the card by being an underling of someone else.
Yeah, so John Cena won the WWE Championship, Neville won the Cruiserweight Championship, and the club, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, won the Tag Team Championship, which, now, go to Raw, as like I said with NXT, like, I want to see the fallout. Well, we got a few things when it comes to fallout. One of them being that, Nia Jax, Sasha Banks had a rematch, and Nia Jax destroyed Sasha Banks, and the match was stopped. It was kind of stopped awkwardly. Like, the bell rung, and then the referee just yells, I didn't call for the bell. And then your announce team is just like, referee stopped the match. Well, obviously he didn't, because he was yelling at the whatever. We haven't. It's not like we haven't seen them do that before, but the announcers and whatever being on the same page. So I don't really know what goes on there, and I don't know if they've addressed that on social media. But sometimes we get that thing where it's just like, well, what's old is new again. I think I've already used that analogy, but like a major pay-per-view doesn't end feuds. So now we got Bayley and Charlotte on opposite ends of a six-person tag match, and we got the club and Cesaro and Sheamus on opposite ends of the 6-person tag match. It's like, well,
and the good guys get their wins back,
right? But the bad guys keep their championships because it's
but it doesn't mean anything,
right? So why have we been like it's just with so many people on the roster and 3 hours of TV? Why are we seeing Cesaro and Sheamus versus the Club in every sort of form and combination for the last 2 months? Well, really like over a month because New Day was kind of the one with the Club before that. Like I can't get past that. The other thing is, and this ties into the NXT thing I told you to kind of pipe down about before, is
Yeah.
Triple H made his debut. No, it's debut. His first time ever. Triple H is on Monday Night Raw.
First time ever.
First time
I don't
ever.
know how we knew his name.
Yeah. So he comes out and you know he runs down Seth Rollins. Blah blah blah. You came to my house. You know, you came where I create. Now you know you get the destroyer. Blah blah blah. And now Seth Rollins comes out, and then as Seth Rollins.
By the way, don't you steal my thunder on this? Don't you steal my thunder? Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that as Samoa Joe got as Seth Rollins, I just ruined it for everybody.
You stole your own thunder.
I stole my own thunder. When Seth Rollins gets to the ring, Samoa Joe attacks him and then seemingly puts him out of commission, quote unquote. Here's what I want to say about that, and something I didn't get to talk to you about before we went live, as we were just like kind of spitballing before the show. They're making a big deal about Seth Rollins' injury here, and there's two sides to it. My side, I'll let you tell your side in a second. My side is that this is absolutely totally a work. They're trying to put one over on the crowd, and they're taking it to like every sort of possibility that they can, where leaking information, you know, Seth's being seen on crutches or blah blah blah, whatever. I just, for some reason, I really feel this is a work, premeditated work, and that everything is still going on as planned, and it's just to make Joe and Triple H look villainous. Now, I do remember watching Monday Night Raw, and Joe taking Seth Rollins down for the Coquina Clutch, and just like kind of like wincing a little bit on how awkward it worked. How awkward it looked, and I just remembered that now, looking at this picture I have on, not when he was about to bring him down. But your side of it is actually valid as well. So why don't you go ahead and tell that?
All right. So here's my thing. After Seth showed up at Takeover, going into the Rumble, I'm like, holy crap! You have probably, like, I don't know, one of your top 3 guys. I mean, Rollins is way up on the card, even after he was out with injury. You got one of your top guys who's not even on the show. Speaking of the Royal Rumble, like, he doesn't have a match. He doesn't like nothing. And I'm like, surely he's going to show up at some point. Surely somehow he got a number for the Royal Rumble, or he's going to attack someone, or
number 30 is not going to show up, and it's going to be Seth Rollins.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Right, exactly. Surely. And then nothing. And then there was and then all this happened with the injury angle with Joe and everything. And I started thinking before the Royal Rumble, if he doesn't show up, something's going on. That's weird. Like, either he has like heat like nobody's had in years.
Yeah, they're punishing him for unknown reasons and keeping him off one of the biggest cards of the year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like insane levels of heat that I don't think anyone's reached in probably a decade. But so, which I didn't think that. I said, or he's nursing some sort of injury or something. And then all this happened, and I'm like, I mean, if it's not like totally re-injured, but the doctors have told him, hey, you got to stay off this for a few weeks, then he could put a compression sleeve on it and wear a brace when he's out of the ring, or not when he's out of the ring, but wear a brace when he's out of the public eye and rehab and stuff like that. Like, he can do everything he needs to do to be ready for WrestleMania. And it sort of jives with what you were just saying, how awkward it was that Joe brought him down, almost protecting him in a way. So it's and you know, he did the spot where he got thrown upside down onto the barrier or whatever, which you can do that. An athlete like Seth can do that with one leg, right? So it's yeah, it just seems like this, someone has told him you can't get in the ring right now. You can do you can do some spots, you can do a few bumps, but we've got to rehab so you don't just totally blow everything up again. And I mean, Joe's the perfect person to introduce into a storyline like that, because that's what Joe does. Joe's going to kill you, you know. But on the other hand, what I didn't want you to steal my thunder, I wanted to highlight sort of the poetry of what Triple H said. It took me a couple seconds after Raw to realize what had happened, but I loved the whole, you know, you came at the creator and now you're going to get the destroyer. I love that whole idea of, you know, Triple H is this, you know, this duality, you know, this walking dichotomy of a person where on one hand he's nurturing and building new stars, and on the other hand he'll destroy someone who gets in his way. I love that. However, there's another aspect to that is like unbelievably poetic. And unless you're someone like me who listens to WWE music all the time, like for workouts and stuff like that, you may not realize that the title or the name of Joe's theme song is Destroyer. That's poetic to me. That's fantastic. You called out the creator, now you're going to get the destroyer, and it just happens to be that Samoa Joe is doing Triple H's dirty work. Samoa Joe's theme song, the name of it is Destroyer. I thought that was fantastic.
WWE.com, since we started recording this, has now officially vocally removed Seth Rollins from this weekend's live house shows. So while that's not an indication whether work or not, while it's not an indication of has he been hurt and he's kind of resting to get back to WrestleMania, or did he really get hurt or not, it is something, and you know, they're being very transparent about Seth Rollins being injured right now, and it's just time will tell whether it's just like, you know.
Well, and again, how do you not have one of your top young guys on one of the biggest cards, probably the biggest card outside of WrestleMania? This is the biggest card we're going to get this year, and WrestleMania is basically just going to be a shuffled repeat of this same card, so or the same talent, I should say. So it just struck me as odd going into it, and then the fact that he did all they did was replay him showing up at TakeOver. That was his part in the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. That was his entire role.
Yeah,
and they said he was going to talk to Stephanie the next night.
Being name dropped by Stephanie, being banned from the building, and never showing him like trying to show up or anything. Because I mean, listen, if he's banned from the building, as like history dictates, he normally shows up to the building and gets informed of that, and then tries.
That's a wrestling trope. If someone's banned, they show up.
Let me say this though. If he got legitimately hurt, and listen, what's my feeling on the thing? I'm 80-20. He got hurt on Monday night, but the 80% of me is like 95% skeptical. Like, you know what I mean? It's like he got hurt. You know, it's legitimate. Everything's legitimate, but something just doesn't feel right about it. But if it happens and Rollins is hurt, and be like, oh, well, you know what? Yeah, he got hurt. I mean, they said it to my face, and I just chose not to believe him. You know, but
well, and not to just keep beating the dead horse, but it's just still odd. Like the thing that sticks in my craw is the fact that they put him on one of the biggest cards of the year,
and that's what I'm addressing. But if he wasn't hurt Monday night, and they did this all as an angle to be like, well, now Seth has more of a reason to be pissed at Stephanie, at Triple H, blah, 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 then that is fantastic. I mean, listen,
sure.
Seth Rollins...
It's a long-term arc.
Right.
And it's
right, but
And it's touching
right.
everything too, which is cool.
Right, but here's my thing. Here,
Yeah.
just, Seth Rollins deserves to be on the Royal Rumble, blah, blah, blah. Well, no, Seth Rollins is doing his job. Seth Rollins is a performer.
Fair enough.
He's selling an angle. Disappointing maybe he's not wrestling on Royal Rumble, yeah, but there's a bigger picture to be had. There's a bigger storyline to be told. How many people in the history of wrestling were pulled off of a card for storyline reasons that benefited a storyline that's going to, cultivate or whatever in like 2 months' time? It probably hasn't been many. What was Seth Rollins going to do if they let him wrestle? What, get put in the Royal Rumble and get thrown out by, X, Y, or Z? And that's it?
Yeah, be a Braun elimination or something.
Right. Was he going to fight, R-Truth on the pre-show? Or whatever?
I still hate that we didn't get an R-Truth spot.
I really thought...
Like maybe, like at number 30, nobody comes out, and then, after the Rumble is over, R-Truth is like waking up or going into Gorilla, telling him to hit his music or something like that.
Yeah, they unfortunately they don't do that stuff with Truth anymore. Well, they don't do really much of anything with Truth. But when Enzo came out, Enzo was one of those surprise names as well on that list. And they let Enzo come out at number one.
And also a comedy spot, and it was good, too.
And they let Enzo come out at number one with Cass to do his announcing thing, spiel. And I think I even said that on the show last week, that, if there's a 1 or 2, he's probably one of them because, you have the time to use the microphone. Him coming out and doing that...
it would either be them or...
Right.
Who did we say? We said it would either be them or Sami Zayn.
With them coming out, doing it... my picks were Sami Zayn and Ziggler because, I feel like those were the endurance guys that could last the whole Rumble. But with them coming out and doing it, I thought R-Truth was a perfect number 2 for him to come out and do his thing as well with Goldust. And then the 4 of those guys would just be in the ring, only 2 officially, 2 unofficially, you know what I mean? And
or he does it, or immediately he does it, and like without JoJo announcing him, and then... like he starts walking, or they like cut his music, and then JoJo announces the actual number 2.
Or Foley comes out and says, "No, yeah." Sorry.
And then as the person's coming in, you're just like, "My bad, that's on me."
That's on me, my bad. Well, yeah. So I mean, listen, verdict's out whether this is legit or not. I think the fact that we're like kind of talking and there's speculation about it.
Talking about it is good.
Yeah. Again. The Vince Russo school of thought. David Arquette was a good champion because people are still talking about it today, and I totally agree.
Screw you, Russo.
We're still talking about this even like 4 days later, and it's a good thing. Let's flip this over, though, to... there was a lot of WrestleMania sign pointing, rah, rah, rah going on. I mean, it's the road to WrestleMania officially. Oh, by the way, welcome. Happy road to WrestleMania. It's now official.
Happy road to WrestleMania.
Yeah, so there's a lot of sign pointing and stuff going on, but we can talk about SmackDown here to end the program, and what they did or what they didn't do, and my main gripe with SmackDown, if we were to take a positive and negative and be like, well, which one overshadowed what for you? Well, the negative overshadowed SmackDown for me because it's just like a creative thing. It's like a WWE creative thing when you don't know what to do with people. You just throw them all together. And they've built this tag team division and women's division because they're guilty of it at times as well. And certainly their match at Royal Rumble was the same thing. We'll just throw them all in the ring together. Their women's and their tag team division can go from pretty focused to pretty like everyone in the ring at the same time from week to week, month to month.
Yeah, it's like we've got a story, we've got a story, we've got a story, we've got a story. Hey, what's the tag story this week? Tag?
10-man tag.
Tag story? I remembered you wanted me to work on that just now. Why don't we just put everybody in the ring?
And that's the women as well. It's like we have a women's spot on the Royal Rumble. What are we going to do? Well, we'll 6-woman tag. To sell, we'll put a...
All right.
Burn a match on a major pay-per-view to set up a match on a normal pay-per-view.
and I agree with you, but I will say I'll take that over a pointless title match that it would have been had it been on the pre-show. It would have been a 5-minute title match that wouldn't have meant jack. So in this box,
Well, no, okay, yeah, well, no,
in
yeah,
this
that's fine.
echo
That's fine.
chamber,
Yeah.
I will take, or not echo chamber, in this vacuum
Right.
tube, I will take that version of what happened with the SmackDown women.
Right, and that's
this
fine.
time.
But, right,
Yeah.
but you look over the history of SmackDown, and
Sure,
how many
sure.
times have they just done that and
Yeah,
and
that's-
done it
yeah, I
and
got
done
you.
it and done it, and I think I have to look, but there has been very few. How many major pay-per-views have we had since the split? We've had 3, right? SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and Royal Rumble. I'm pretty sure that the pre-show of every one of those shows has consisted of a 10-man tag match from the SmackDown side, or a 6-woman
multi-person match.
every time.
It speaks to the whole B show philosophy of SmackDown, where fans are clamoring for more, or fans are praising what they do with SmackDown on a daily base, or on a weekly basis. And so I feel like maybe they think, well, we can be lazy with this because we need to tell these bigger, more important stories on the franchise show in Raw. And so SmackDown's going to take a back seat for these combined pay-per-views, except maybe the title match. And then SmackDown's pay-per-views will progress stories.
They are guilty of not, and WWE as a whole is guilty of this.
Sure.
Not just SmackDown, but SmackDown is like, just there's the not putting an importance, a priority on the tag titles in general in WWE. Even when teams have the tag titles, there's no priority, there's no prestige in owning them. They just either have them, or there's just shenanigans they go through to win them back, to retain them, blah blah blah. There's no honor or prestige in title runs with the even New Day's long title runs, the record breaking title run. There was no very few major pay-per-views included a New Day title defense. They just don't care, and it's like one of the first things.
A lot of times,
right? It's one of the first things that gets cut on it. And now we're looking at SmackDown, and SmackDown has put no importance on any single one of these tag teams, including American Alpha, who won the tag team titles, who have done nothing since having the tag team titles except announce they're going to do an open challenge, which then every other tag team in SmackDown had came to the ring afterwards.
Yeah.
So, so there's my big negative on that. And Naomi scored another win over Alexa Bliss, and here's another situation. You got a champion, but then the champion's going to lose in every single combination of the match to the challenger, and then probably win when they fight for the prize. So it's just those basic storyline ruts.
Yeah, it's pretty lazy, and what's sort of disappointing specifically about that story is you've got 2 cheerleaders. You have 2 professional cheerleaders. How easy is it to start telling the story to show Trinity Fatu as, or whatever her name was before, not trying to be offensive, I just don't know, but show Trinity as a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, or that's what she was, right? No,
she was with the Laker. No,
Yeah.
Orlando Magic.
What was she? Yeah, the Magic. Okay. Sorry, I don't know why. I must be thinking of somebody else.
Cowboy cheerleaders are always featured on the WWE WrestleMania
that could be
flashback show,
sure.
commercial.
Yeah, but you've got her pedigree as a cheerleader. You've got Alexa's pedigree as a cheerleader and as a beauty queen. Like all these top female honors for both of them, and like what little girls aspire to be, and you can tell this story. You could even weave in a story of how maybe Alexa sort of exploited things to win in a way or something like that.
No, absolutely, and
So
there's
yeah,
so many different ways to do it other than X wrestler, X Y
sure.
wrestler beats X champion in a tag team or 6-man tag team match.
Yeah,
Every
I
time
mean,
leading
it's
up
just
to
that story is like very easy to tell.
yeah.
You
They
know,
need
that
to
you've got these two premier athletes against each other.
they need to focus more on personalities than just slotting wrestlers in the same tired old
Sure.
scenarios. And you know, they don't have to create anything new. They just have to make it feel important by putting a little grease on the wheel, you know what I mean? But hey,
Sure.
what was your biggest disappointment about the Rumble? Who did you really want to show up that didn't show up?
Steve Blackman.
I'm done.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is for you. I'm the Duke. He's mad at me because I stole his thunder, and he's Angry Larry, and now Angry Larry is angry. Night night.